Dry your tears and open your eyes. I know where the wonderland lies. Dry your tears and open your eyes. I know where the wonderland lies.
Hello. Yep, I can hear you. You can hear me, yeah? Great. Okay, I'm just going to fire up the game. You're on the playtest? Yeah, okay. Sure. I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, not bad things. Working on the character customization. System's got to take a lot of work. Yeah. Great. Okay.
Turn my mic on. Okay. Can you just chat, see if my desktop picks you up?
Yep. Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yep, that is all good. The bars are showing.
Excellent.
So, I'm going to start off with some questions while we figure out what we're going to do.
Sure, go for it.
So, how would the AI perform in the game?
So it really depends on which AI. The idea behind the NPC crew is that you'll be working alongside them as a crew member yourself. So if you imagine the ship being split into divisions or departments,
Yeah.
so you have, say, engineering as an example. You'll have the chief engineer, which will generally be the player if the player is playing as engineering. And then you'll have a team of NPC engineers, and they will work from a task sheet which will be generated automatically. So as the ship takes wear and tear or takes damage, then components and things around the ship will be losing health, and the NPC crew will pick the first most priority job on the list, and they'll go off and repair that component. And they'll do that in a completely automated way. You won't need to to interfere with what they're doing. And then you, as the player, can work from that same list. And the list will be based on, or rather, be prioritized on urgency. So the more damaged a component is, the higher up the list it will be. And that will work the same across all the other departments as well. So, for example, say with medical, then it'll be a triage type scenario. So the NPCs will prioritize the most injured people. And with science, again, things that need science performing on them, the NPC crew will perform those actions.
Nice. That sounds interesting. Just can't wait
Yep,
for that.
it's
Can't
going to
wait
be
for that to be played around with.
yeah, it's going to be quite the challenge, but it's all planned out, and it should work in practice. I think it's a good way of handling having so many crew members, treating them as a resource of sorts. So if you lose your NPC crew, then you have to do the work yourself. So the more NPCs you have around, the less you as a player have to do on the ship.
Sweet. How often do the AI do their own tasks? Because I think I saw in a trailer somewhere, like I could have sworn I saw it somewhere, like when I think it was one of your videos where you was testing it out and they had to drop what their task was to come and do something else.
Yeah. So if nothing is we use engineering again as an example. The system we've already tested and has already been working was with the lights and the cabling. So back when we had a gun in the game and we were testing that, you could shoot a light or shoot a cable, and then the NPCs would drop whatever they were doing and then go and fix that problem. So the first engineer to pick it up would be the one that does it. When there are no jobs on the job list, they'll just go about their business on the ship. So they'll go from point of interest to point of interest, looking at some screens, checking some readouts, in some cases doing preventative maintenance as well.
Right. Okay.
So that they won't just sort of stand there when there's nothing to do. They will busy themselves. And they'll also have various stats, a bit like The Sims. So like bladder and health and well-being, sort of mental well-being. And if they need the bathroom, they'll take themselves off to the nearest bathroom. So I really want the crew to feel like a real crew.
Yeah, like because how I think of it is like it's like Star Trek in a world in like a forte, but it's actually a game.
Yeah, sort of.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
that kind
I
of
don't
thing.
know. I don't know if the game's like based around Star Trek-ish type stuff.
It's definitely a similar theme. So, I'm into all kinds of sci-fi, and I think it's fair to say that there are elements from various different sci-fis in the game. Obviously, there is a heavy Star Trek influence, which you can see in just the general look and feel of the ship. But my favorite show, actually, of all, is actually Babylon 5. And there's a few elements of that which I'm going to be getting into the game, especially when it comes to alien races and things. I love the concept of the first ones and the ancient aliens, and definitely planning for them to be in the game somewhere that you can come across.
So obviously, when you was talking about the alien, now obviously we got test modes. Obviously, you got the disco mode, which I think you said you was going to remove in the full release.
It'll be well hidden as an Easter egg, but it'll be there somewhere.
So for obviously the alien invasion type, how would this like system trigger?
So one of the first gameplay loops that will be implemented sometime between now and February is going to be the ability to scan the surface of planets and identify whether or not there's anything on those planets which could be retrieved as a sample or a specimen. And what you'll be able to do is send a probe down to the planet's surface, and that probe will come back with whatever it is you had targeted. So it could be a plant, it could be a piece of ancient pottery, it could be an alien artifact of some kind, a piece of technology, a fish, just something from the surface of the planet. And each of those different things will have various positive or negative effects depending on how you choose to use them. But the idea is that every item that you retrieve will have a certain science level associated with it, and your science team on the ship will also have a science level. And you'll be able to level up your science team by performing science on those samples. Now, for example, if you have a piece of alien technology and it has a much higher science level than your science team, they will be unable to identify what it is, or they may mistake what it is. And if you then decide to use that piece of alien technology, not being confident in what it is, then it could, for example, put an alien virus into the ship's computer and have an effect on the ship. So the idea behind that is that you can upgrade your ship, your systems by integrating technologies that you find whilst you're exploring. But you need to make sure that they've been properly researched by your science team first to avoid unexpected outcomes.
So about obviously when you mentioned about updating the ship or upgrading it, will it work on like a point base, like on how many points you get, or how is it gonna perform?
It'll be more a percentage based system. I'm trying to keep everything as organic as possible. So let's take the FTL system, for example. So the ship has a certain speed that it can achieve, which is 570 light years an hour at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's based on converting the power draw to field strength and, by extension, the speed of the ship. So you could find a new mineral, for example, and then your geology science team could perform some science on that mineral and decide that this would be a good thing to make some field generators out of for the FTL system. And that will increase the efficiency of the power usage of the FTL engines, with the net result being the ship goes faster. So it's not really a points-based affair. It's this material is better than the one you're already using, and now there's a positive effect on your ship. So it could be stronger shields, faster engines, more efficient weapons. It could be anything, or indeed make them worse if your science team haven't researched something properly.
Also, I saw something on here it is on this panel that I'm stood at now. Obviously, It's still a work in progress, but it says bridge shield. How will that system work?
So if you click it and look at the windows, you'll see
click
that
raise?
yes. So it's a blast shield which comes up over the windows.
Yeah, I was looking for the button because normally when you like press a button, it will like highlight it and then.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those ideas that just popped into my head and thought, wouldn't it be cool if we had physical shielding over the windows? And then I kind of drove the shape of the bridge in some ways, because the windows then had to be flat in order to support having a physical shield. But there will also be a physical shield on the top windows as well that rotates across to cover them.
Oh, so it's like a blind type left or right closing motion.
Yeah, it sort of concertinas out as it goes across. But the idea there, I mean, as much as the ship does have energy shields, sort of traditional sci-fi shielding, that's just an extra layer of shielding should your shields collapse, so that you can not lose the bridge.
18SEX. I am not going to accept that in the chat. I don't know what that is about, but that's not this type of stream. So is the shields like to stop the windows from getting broken, or something like where you lose pressure in the thing and you go flying out the window and all that type of thing?
Yeah, basically, it's just a way of hardening the bridge during combat. Obviously, there will be combat at some point, and you don't want the bridge to fail. So it just hardens the bridge structure, makes it more difficult. It's the way I look at it is there will be various targets across both your ship and other ships in the game, and the idea is to make the bridge less of an efficient target, so it's more efficient to take out the engines or the weapons. Continually pounding the bridge is an inefficient way of taking down the enemy ship. So it's just about making it less of a target during combat.
So obviously, when you was mentioning that, when you said about other air like ships, so it's the other ships are going to be like AI typed ships.
They will be, yeah. With the nature of the way the game is, it's very difficult to have multiple ships with players. That is something I've got planned, but it will be smaller ships and not big cruisers like the one we're on.
Yeah.
There comes
So obviously this ship that we're on now is going to be classed as the, how would they call it, the mother ship type thing.
Yeah, I guess this is in the game's lore, and it's an experimental exploration ship. It's the first of its kind, and the first ship that has an FTL engine capable of exploring the galaxy in a realistic way. So the idea, lore-wise, is the FTL technology before this ship was really only worth using within a system for getting around Sol system itself. So this is mankind's real first journey out into the stars to explore the greater galaxy. This would be a cruiser, really. It's 200 meters in diameter. It's quite a big ship, 7 decks. The next couple of ships we build for the follow-up DLCs will be a similar size. Again, they'll be big cruisers. But aside from that, I also plan to make a lot smaller ships, sort of 5 to 10 crew, sort of more of an intimate multiplayer experience type of ship. And with ships that size, we can have multiple of those at once in a multiplayer session. So you could have 2 groups of players in the same game on 2 separate ships. With a smaller ship, that's possible, but with a big ship like this one, you start running into problems with object counts, and there's just too much at once.
Yeah, I like the idea of having AI ships, obviously the smaller ones, because as you think of it now, obviously, yes, it's a playtest. It feels like you're alone in the galaxy, but seeing other ships flying around makes it like really immersive and realistic.
Absolutely. And there's a new system that was released with Unreal Engine 5, which is designed around crowd simulation and AI. So massive amounts of AIs all moving around and performing actions at once. And then we can leverage that same system for AI ships. So we can have a lot of AI ships just traversing the galaxy. That's going to be good for making the galaxy feel more alive.
Yes, and that's a great idea as well. Chat, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them, and then I will say them to Dan. So would you like to give us a little tour of, obviously there is going to be sections where they're going to be empty, but just a rough estimate what's going to be held within that area?
Sure. Well, as we're on the bridge, let's start here. So if we go with the obvious ones first, obviously we've got the helm here.
Yep.
The helm station still needs a fair bit of work doing to it. There's a lot of manual targeting, saving of locations, so you've got a bookmark list, better ways of seeing the ship's orientation. So there's still quite a lot more I want to do to the helm. So what exists now will change over time for sure.
Yep.
And then over this side, we've got the communication station. Again,
Is that the one with
the
WIP sticker on it?
It is, yeah. If you hover your mouse over the chair, it actually tells you what station it is.
Com station. Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And what will the way that will work, similar to the sensors, is the idea is that each star system you go to, if there is intelligent life there with technology, then you'll have various signals and things on the comms panel, and you'll be able to tune into those. And if they're technologically advanced enough, you'll be able to contact them and initiate a conversation. So that's how first contact is going to be initiated, and then that will be a multiple choice conversation, generally handled by the captain. And on this one here,
Sensor station.
obviously this is sensors, which everyone who's played the game should be familiar with. But the very next update that I'm working on now is going to be character customization. But then after that, I'm going to be focusing on the sensors. So this particular panel is going to have quite a big update, where you'll be able to filter targets by type, and you'll also have a tabbed interface where you can choose between live sensors and astrometrics or astrometry. And the idea behind the astrometry mode is that you'll be able to manually specify any sector in the galaxy, and you'll be able to see what's there in that sector. And if it's close enough, you'll be able to scan those stars. But you'll at least be able to see what exists in every single sector, and you'll be able to target that for navigation.
Yeah, because that literally sort of covered the the question I was thinking in my head, like how like what is the proximity with the scan? Do you have to be like sort of closer to it? Because at the moment you can scan any planet from where you are.
You can, and there's actually 2 buttons right now which are disabled, and those will come into play when we add planetary surface scanning.
So we've got the planetary system and then focus target.
Yes. So I'm going to jumble those up a little bit more, because that was the initial implementation, and those 2 grayed out buttons could do with being slightly reworked so they make more sense. But the idea is the planetary system one is supposed to show the planet and its moons, and that's confusing people, because people kind of read that and think star system.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll probably scrap that and make it more about targeting individual bodies in space. So you'll be able to target a star or a planet, and as long as you're within a decent visual range of that object, you'll be able to perform a surface scan, and those surface scans will be what start revealing more information about that body. And with things like the habitable worlds, you'll be able to see what life is there, how advanced that life is, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, because I think I did see something on the helm. I know you covered a bit about the targeting system. I think. Oh, I could have sworn I saw it on here. So like when you're out in space, you have. I don't know if the ship's gonna have like weapons on it, like lasers and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a good segue to coming over here to the other side. So these 2 chairs here, you've got the tactical station on the left,
Yep.
and the defense station on the right. The tactical station will be all the weapons on the ship, whereas the defensive station will be the shields. So really, the shield buttons need to be on the other side. The way the weapons will work is the tactical systems on the ship will be AI driven, so the player won't need to manually target the turrets on the ship. The computer AI will do that for you, but what you'll be doing as a tactical officer is painting targets for the turrets to aim at. So you'll have a readout of an alien vessel, and you'll have various hot points around the ship with various power readouts, and it won't say like these are the engines, this is a weapon, these are the shield generators. It'll just give you, this is a high power item, this is a low power item, and it'll be up to the tactical officer to decide which of those targets would be prudent to attack in that moment. So, a high powered target at the rear of the ship is likely to be the engines. So I think that's a a decent assumption you can make. And again, with the science team, the more skilled your science team are, the more of an idea you'll have what those targets are. So it'll say next to it, say this is 30% sure that this is engines, or we're 70% sure these are the engines. So the tactical gameplay will also play into the science gameplay, so all the systems sort of work together with one another.
So, because I don't know if there's like a system where you'll be able to direct more power to, like, for example, the guns or the shields, or like balance them out.
Yep, that will happen over here. So in this alcove, this will be the engineering alcove. So you'll have a big panel for the propulsion systems and a big panel for the power systems. And you'll only be able to perform high-level functions from the bridge. So distributing power, say, between the engines and the shields, you'll be able to do that from the bridge. And reconfiguring the reactor for FTL, you'll be able to do that from the bridge. But anything really beyond simple distribution of power, you'll need to go down into engineering itself to perform deeper engineering functions. But so those power distribution and moving power around, you can do that from over here on this alcove.
What is the other alcove for?
This one over here. So on the far left-hand side will be the internal security. So behind them there will be a weapons locker on this wall here.
Right.
And the idea there is that this is so if you sort of stand here and look at the door, it's a really well defended position.
Yeah.
So if you've got a weapons locker behind the tactical guy, he can defend the entrance to the bridge really easily from this position. And so the tactical station will have, the internal security station will have controls for all the bulkheads around the ship, so you can lock the bulkheads remotely, security cameras and intruder alerts, all that sort of thing. So the full sort of internal security suite.
So I'm assuming there's like going to be cameras on all of the on all decks, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the cameras will be focused mainly on the bulkheads. So when you're sat at the internal security station, you'll have a list of all the bulkheads on the ship. And when you select one of those bulkheads, it'll show you a camera feed of that bulkhead, and then some controls for open, close, lock, that sort of thing.
Right, okay. I've only just noticed on this screen, we've got window control.
Yes, so that's the polarization of the windows. So when you're up against a star like this, you can just enable the polarization like that.
Oh yeah, I did trigger it. I wasn't sure if it was working or not.
Yeah, you pressed it twice.
Oh.
Yeah, so I do actually want to make the stars brighter when you're this close to them, so that there's more of a reason to actually use the polarization. Because right now they get dimmer as you get closer, just to enable you to see them.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be better if that was the other way around. And yeah, the final station on the bridge is going to be this one over here, and this will be the environmental control station. So that'll be things like air pressure, heating, lighting modes such as day shift, night shift, things of that ilk. If there's a decompression event or a fire, that will come up on the environmental control station.
So obviously, if the ship gets too hot, will that like affect the character?
Yeah. So going back to the NPCs, again, sort of likening them to the characters in The Sims, the stats that those NPCs have will play a direct bearing on how they perform their duties. So if they're injured or their mental health is suffering because it's constantly too hot, or they're freezing, that will affect how they perform their jobs. So their repairs will take longer, they won't do as good of a job. So when they repair something, they won't fully repair it. So again, everything's connected to everything else.
Right, and obviously if like temperatures get critical, like some type of an alarm would go off, and I'm assuming that's when the red alert would come into play as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah. There was some debate as to whether or not red alert should be triggered automatically, but there won't be red alert in the traditional sense. So right now on the panel we've got condition normal, yellow alert, and red alert. So yellow alert won't be staying because that's, as far as I can see, that seems to be sort of a Star Trek specific thing. It's not something that's used in the real world.
Yeah.
In the real world, we have things like general quarters, we've got fire alarm, chemical spill, intruder alert. The alerts on the ship will be far more specific. So there won't be a generic red alert. There will be a general quarters, or there will be a fire alarm, or there will be an abandoned ship alarm. So there'll be specific alerts for a specific reason, rather than just a generic something bad's happening.
So will there be like a system in place as well, like where, for example, also I'm assuming that the fire alarm's going to be automatically triggered, but also by a pull station.
Yeah.
So if the automated version like fails, like system failure, would you, obviously you'll still be able to activate it through the pull handle, and I'm
Yes.
assuming that you'd go down to engineering and fix or try and figure out why it's failed.
Absolutely, yeah. With every system on the ship being fully simulated, everything will have a health value. So right down to the individual wires powering everything will have their own individual health values. So if a cable or a device or a junction box fails, then anything that was relying on that will also stop working. So, for example, the fire sensors, if power to them is cut, they will no longer detect fire. So it's a living, breathing ship in that regard.
So obviously when it doesn't detect, that's when you've got to find where the fire is in one of the decks and then manually activate the alarm.
That's right, yeah. Or just radio through to the bridge and just let them know, and obviously a ship-wide fire alarm will be sounded. There's also an argument to be made as to whether or not fire should be put out automatically, or whether or not the player should have some agency in running around with a fire extinguisher. I think having the player run around putting the fire out themselves, or have the NPCs putting the fire out, generally leads to more gameplay. Although from a practical perspective, if we were doing it realistically, we'd expect some kind of an automated system. So we'll try and find some balance between the two there.
Yeah, because I think it'll work both ways. Like, obviously, of course, if the fire alarm auto detect system fails, then obviously the extinguish system that's like tied up with that will not work. So you have to go around with a fire extinguisher in your hand and find out where it is, or if someone's told you which deck it's on, and then you just like pretty much leg it to there before it like spreads.
Yeah, exactly. And fire spread will be a thing. So I've already designed the system. It's not implemented yet, but I've got it written down how I'm going to do it. The ship will be split into a grid, like a 3D grid, and as those grid points are set as being on fire, they'll then spread to the adjacent grid points, and they'll then spread across the ship in 3 dimensions. So if you leave it long enough, the entire ship would be on fire.
So obviously, when the fire starts from small and then starts spreading, I'm assuming it will still damage the ship altogether.
Yes. So and anywhere that is on fire, any system in that place will be damaged completely, inoperable. So you'll need to replace it.
Right, and that's obviously when your tools come in hand.
Absolutely. Should we continue the tour?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so this is the main entry corridor. Right now, this is set as being an armory, but I'm actually going to make this a bathroom. So this will be executive bathroom for the bridge crew and the XO and the captain,
Yeah.
just to save them time to run all the way downstairs, if they're busy.
Will there
Opposite
be
there,
one
we've
like?
got-
Will there be toilets on each deck anyway? So if you're in like engineering and you need burst into the toilet, you don't have to come all the way up to the top deck to use.
Yes. On the main stairwell, the room behind the main stairwell, all the way down, will be toilets on every deck. So there will always be a toilet on whatever deck you're on.
Right.
Yeah, so this is the captain's office. The rooms that are on a deck, they're fairly far along in terms of the planned interactability of the room. Because the idea behind just being on the ship is I wanted there to always be lots of things to do and touch and to interact with, no matter where you are. So, for example, in this room, you can pick something up, sit in a chair. You've got window controls, so you can polarize the windows, or you can apply a hologram scene.
Yeah.
So it's just it's not really functionally relevant, but it's just something you can fiddle with, just a bit of interaction which adds some depth to the universe. And again, with the lighting, you can turn off the lights in the room, or change the brightness, or change the lighting temperature. So these are all
like suit someone's side if it's like too bright for them.
yeah. So it allows players to customize their experience, but at the same time, it gives a lot of things to touch around the ship.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of games where you'll see a control panel on the wall, or you'll see some kind of electronics box. They're always fake. They don't do anything. They're just set dressing. And I made the decision from day one. There is going to be no set dressing in the game at all. Every single control panel, every single electrical box, all of it's real. All of it does something. There will be no fake buttons anywhere.
Yeah, because I've played quite a few games, and most of the stuff is just like decoration, and I've done it many times where I'll go, "Ooh, there's a control panel there." I'll walk up to it and try and press it, and nothing happens.
Yeah, exactly. So I want every single button to do something, and have it be something useful. So we just have a carbon copy, another office for the XO. And actually, while we're in here, there's a keypad on the desk which currently doesn't do anything, but that will eventually be a usable terminal. So the senior staff will be able to write notes and write log entries, look at crew manifests, and you'll be able to just perform the kind of duties you'd expect to perform as a commanding officer whilst in your office.
I've noticed I picked up the tablet, and obviously I put it back on the desk. It fell below the desk. I went to pick it up again, and now it's disappeared.
Yeah, the tablets have a very thin collision mesh, and Unreal Engine 5 has not very good physics at the moment with the new Chaos physics engine, but the next update, 5.1, has much better physics collisions. So fingers crossed that will improve collision on small objects like that.
At
So
this
the
point,
cup isn't so bad. You can you can move the cup around. That doesn't go through things as much.
You could safely say I've broken the tablet, and I've already broken the game as well.
Yeah. And the last room on A deck is obviously the conference room, where you'll be able to brief the crew. And the idea behind this screen here.
Yeah, I was actually looking at that and thinking, what's that going to be used for?
So someone suggested that you'd be able to select missions and things on the screen. And while I like that as an idea, more practically, I like it just showing the current missions that are available. So when you encounter an alien species, more often than not, they'll have something they want you to do. And you'll gain favor with them by doing whatever it is they're asking of you. And if you've got a few of those stacking up that you haven't completed yet, you'll be able to see those on this screen. So this will be sort of the mission briefing screen. And you'll also be able to use it to go through all the different departments on the ship and have a look at the task lists and see who's doing what engineering tasks are outstanding, and just that sort of thing.
See, I like both of the ideas. Like, you can choose your mission, but with me thinking, if I was the developer, I would be able to let people select, but once they've selected a mission, they can't choose another one unless they either cancel or they complete it. And obviously when they cancel the mission, you end up losing so many amount of points because you didn't complete that mission.
Yeah, all of that is still to be decided, but generally speaking, I've always found, say, timed missions, for example, to be frustrating. Quite often I haven't got time for a timed mission, or I need to nip out, or my kids need me for something. So I've never been a fan of missions that time out in that regard.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm also not really a fan of not being able to have a collection of missions. So there are some games where you can only have, say, 5 at once, and again, I just find that annoying, because if I want to, say, go around and collect a bunch of missions and then spend a day doing them, then I don't want a limit. I don't want to apply a limit on how many missions you can have active. And to be honest, that's going to be the case across the game. I don't want to apply limits anywhere if I can avoid applying limits.
Yeah,
So-
see, obviously when you had mentioned about the missions and such, I don't know if you've ever heard or played the game, but Star Trek Bridge Crew, obviously you're in the bridge, you've got AIs within the deck, and you travel to different missions. I can't remember if any of them are like timed. I don't think any of them are timed. But that game's more in VR. And obviously with this game, I don't know at like a later point when the game is stable with optimizations, less bugs, all that type of stuff. I don't know if you'll eventually implement like a VR like gameplay as well for like VR players like myself and others.
Yeah, it's definitely planned. As I've said before, that to not include VR in this game would be crazy, because it's built for it. And one of the reasons that I wanted every single interface on the ship to be touchable and pressable is because it's already VR ready at this point. So if you were to load up the game as a VR player, then all of these control panels will already just immediately work for you.
See, I've played some VR games, and some of them use the touch controllers, but some, like one of the Guitar Heroes, as most of us call it, it's all to do with finger tracking. So I don't know if you're going to choose like touch controllers or physical hand tracking, so you can actually feel like you're pressing that button or that screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be both. I've got both a classic Vive and a Valve Index here, so I've got both styles of controllers. So where it makes sense to use finger tracking, we definitely will. But when you reach out towards any of the controls, there will be contact points on the virtual fingers in the world. So you will literally be pressing the buttons with your fingers.
Yeah, which makes it more realism into the game.
Absolutely, yeah, and absolutely, the main thing about VR is that realism, that one-to-one immersion. So we'll be focusing very heavily on that, and it's also part of the reason why a lot of the objects on the ship are physics objects, because obviously in VR, if it's not nailed down, you need to be able to pick it up, and nothing kind of breaks the VR immersion than having a small object that you can't move.
Yeah.
So the game is being built with VR in mind. So everything is a physics object. everything will work exactly the same in VR as it does in first person.
Hello, Check Ride Air. Welcome to the stream. I'm here with Dan, the developer of Starship Simulator. If you
Hello.
have any questions, feel free to drop them and we'll try and answer them. The other thing I've noticed, like over here, you've got like a little bar and I can pick up the bottles.
Mhm.
And I was like pressing F and I thought, no, that throws it.
Yes, yeah.
So are they going to be like drinkable type drinks then, or
They
how?
will be eventually, yeah. At the moment, this is all just a test. But the idea is that there will be a chef role on the ship. And in fact, in this unfinished room here, this is actually a galley kitchen. So you've got a storeroom over there with the food in it. And this will be kitchen appliances where you actually prepare food. So that will actually be a player role. And we'll have just a mini cooking game within the game where you combine ingredients to create recipes. And again, it's just another little bit of realism, another role to add, just something to do aboard the ship. We really
Yeah.
want to focus on life aboard ship.
Yeah, to make it more come to life type thing.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Obviously,
So being able,
no, carry on.
yeah, so being able to pick up and consume food is very much part of that, and there will be an element of survival gameplay as well. So it's not going to be hardcore survival, but there will be an element of survival in that you'll need to eat and drink at least once every game day. So it gives players a reason to visit the mess hall. It gives a reason for players to move about the ship, and the same with the NPC crew as well. And once the aquaponics and the arboretum and all that are implemented, then that'll be another element of the gameplay. So managing the ship's food supplies will be just as important as managing the ship's fuel.
When you said aquaponics,
Yes.
isn't that another? Is that not like another name for atmospherics?
So aquaponics, which is distinct from hydroponics. So with hydroponics, you use misting to grow plants. So you don't have plants sat in water; they're misted with water.
Yeah.
With aquaponics, you actually use fish. So the fish waste in the water is used to fertilize the plants, and at the same time, the plants are cleaning the water, which is then fed back into the fish. So you're using the growing of plants to clean the fish water, which then fill the water of poo again, so you can fertilize your plants. So that's what aquaponics is.
Yeah, because when you said about growing plants, I know this is a bit off topic. I play Stationeers, and it's all about survival. And they've got like automated hydroponics where the plants would grow, and what it does is you breathe out. I think it's CO2, but the plants breathe it in. On top of that, you need water to keep them hydrated and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be a lot of plant life on the ship, not just to help with oxygen regulation and cleaning the CO2 out of the air, but also just for the crew's mental health. So it's good to be surrounded by greenery and reminders of Earth wherever you are. But there will be a proper air filtration system down in engineering, which will be another system which needs to be maintained to ensure that the ship always has a good oxygen balance and that the CO2 scrubbers are working optimally, that sort of thing.
Yeah, see, all of these things that you're talking about, I just can't wait for it to be implemented in the game, but I know you've got to do, obviously, like, step by step before the great, like, the bigger and the greater stuff come into play.
Yes, there's a really long list of things that need to be done. What the playtest represents at the moment is just an example of, I guess, the environment of the ship, the galaxy, and how the ship will navigate that galaxy. and indeed an example that there is an entire galaxy, like the whole one-to-one Milky Way is there to play with. And on the engineering side, just a demonstration that there's a live electrical system that actually has an impact on the ship if you turn things off. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that every single ship system will have a live electrical supply which is running in real time. So everything, literally every single thing on the ship, will be connected in some way to the electrical system, and by extension also the data system, and the plumbing, and everything's going to be fully simulated. It's a crazy project, but I think it's worth it.
Yeah. For everybody in chat, I have posted the game in the game for the Steam page. Get the playtest today, because Dan has extended it to the end of October. So that will be your chance not to miss out on the playtest and playing with other people.
Yep, and I'll probably extend it a little bit, maybe by a week as well, because I've got 2 more patches planned for this playtest period. So, like I said earlier, we've got the character customization next, and that'll be followed by the new sensors gameplay and all of that. And basically, it'll be 7 days from when the sensors patch goes live, and then we'll end the playtest at the end of that week.
There you go, guys. So get the playtest today. Don't want to miss out on the fun now.
Yep. That's it. The sooner you get it, the longer you have. Absolutely. So if we continue our tour then.
I've noticed the food in here, and when I first picked them up, I thought, "Oh, I can eat one," but no.
Not yet, but you definitely will be able to.
See, you're making my character feel hungry, and you can't even eat it.
And we'll actually have the character holding the food properly. It won't just be floating in front of you.
Yeah.
So obviously that was the VIP lounge. So that's the lounge that's really reserved for the senior staff and the bridge crew and any visiting dignitaries. And these rooms back here. So you've got the storeroom, which has some spare chairs and Christmas decorations and things, which will be added as an overlay. In fact, if you press F3, then you can see on the first tab that we've got seasonal overlays that will be coming soon at some point.
Seasonal decorations, Halloween, Christmas, etc. coming soon.
Yeah, so if you enable one of those, then the ship will be decorated for that season. And we were going to have it so that it's automatic depending on the month, but we went in the end just letting the player just pick. If you want to have Halloween in February, feel free.
Yeah, see that will be good for streamers like myself. Like when it's like Halloween or Christmas, we can then set up the game to be Christmas themed type thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll add obviously more seasonal decorations over time as and when people request them.
I want to test
Chinese
something with you. Now I can pick up one of these. Can you see that floating in the air?
I can, yes.
Okay, because last time I played with players on a multiplayer server, they were picking things up, like these items that you could pick up, but the other players couldn't actually see them holding it. Yeah,
so the way it works right now is if the host picks up the item, then all the players can see the host doing that action. If any of the clients pick up the item, so if I pick this up now, so no, I can't even pick it up. I gotta pick up the other one. So I'm holding a hand soap, which you won't be able to see.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Whereas if I kick one, you'll probably see it.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a client server ownership thing going on. And it's quite complicated behind the scenes, but essentially the server doesn't like the client having control of the physics. And when you pick up an object, it's using a physics handle. And that basically doesn't work. So that system's on hold at the moment, but that will be fixed and it will be handled slightly differently.
Yeah, that was literally going to take me to the question, like when the game is like nearer to the full-on release, it'll be fixed by then.
Oh, for sure. Yes, so the new system for interacting with props will be when you pick an item up, it'll be physically in your hand, and then when you put it down, there will be like a ghost of that item in the game world,
Oh, so
and you
like
can
a
position
hologram,
it.
so you know where you can place it.
Yeah, so it will show you where you're about to put it, and then you just click, and your character will put it in that place. It is a much more sophisticated system than what we have now, which is you literally psychically telekinesis them everywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you
Honestly,
grab one
I've noticed, like, I don't know if, like, if I was to place one of these on the side and just leave it, would then, obviously, then would you be able to see me placing it there? Obviously, you can't see me
yes,
holding it, but, you know.
yeah, I can see everything you do because you're the host.
Oh, I
And now
broke the
they're
game
everywhere.
again.
Yeah, and just yeah, for the record, this will be a bathroom, so this will be the bathroom associated with the VIP lounge.
So will these will these two items like be interactable? So when you've got a roll as a cleaner and there's like a bit of spillage, you'd pick this up, pick that up, clean the floor, and then place that down.
Yeah, that's the idea. So we want in the long run, and not all of them will be out at once. We'll add roles over time.
Yeah.
But yes, janitor is definitely one of the roles we have planned, and the gameplay associated with that will literally just be running around, cleaning, wiping up messes, maybe watering a plant, and some players enjoy that. So
Like
I know
honestly, it adds
my wife.
realism as well to the game, and you're not constantly
It
doing the
does,
same
and
thing.
my wife Claire, who's also our social media and PR person,
Oh,
I know
that's
that's one of the
Claire
things.
Bear.
Yes,
Yeah, I know her
and
very
I
well.
know she's looking forward to that.
Yeah, we spend
So
more
we
time
want,
speaking in DM than anything else.
ah, yeah, we definitely want every role you could think of that might be needed on a starship. We want to get that implemented, including like the deck crew, which is like being a bit of a UPS driver. You're delivering boxes to people, and
Yeah.
someone in the science lab needs a new box of whatever's, and you take it to them. So yeah, there's lots of roles planned, and they'll just be added over time as we get to them.
Did you receive your snacks from Claire Bear? Because she's DM'd me saying that she had to pop out to get you some snacks for the stream.
Yeah, yeah. I got a cup of tea and a scone, so I'm good. Um, so yeah, so this is continuing B deck. This is obviously the main crew lift, which isn't implemented yet, hence the cones.
So
Although
will
most
there
people
be
just
like a button that you press, and then when you walk in, there'll be like a panel on the side, and you have to physically press the button to which floor or deck you want to go to?
Yeah. Just like everything else in the game, it will be physically simulated. So the lift car will move up and down, and if you run down and press the call button on all the decks, it will go between them. It will remember the order in which the buttons were pressed and just take itself between those decks.
And I'm assuming there's going to be like some type of fail system there where it like breaks down halfway, and you've got to fix it and then rescue the players out of there or NPCs.
Yeah. Everything will be breakable in some way.
Obviously, this deck's a bit clear, but what is actually going to be going around here?
So behind you, there is actually an entire room behind this wall that you can't get to right now, which is the VIP quarters. So I'm going to extend those all the way out to the actual corridor itself, and they're going to have like a little porch almost at the front. So there's going to be a recessed entrance with like a little planter and a much more ornate door.
Yeah.
And there are going to be, I believe it's six VIP quarters around this ring. And as I say, they will extend all the way out to the corridor. And they'll also have external windows as well. And around the back here, there's going to be a door into the server room, which is what's behind this wall.
Right.
And the server room is 2 decks tall, and that will also have a staircase down into the reactor room. So you'll be able to get to the reactor room from here through a secure engineering doorway.
When you oh, never mind. It was your name reflecting off the screen. I thought I could see sort of transparent through the wall then.
Ah, sometimes if you're running whilst you sit down in the bridge, sometimes you'll get teleported down into the darkness of the current server room. It's a bug. It shouldn't happen, but you
Yeah, I
can
found
get that
myself
way.
at one point when I was walking somewhere, and I ended up in the lift shaft, and it was all dark. And I thought, where the
Yeah,
hell's the exit?
yeah. There's a cavity underneath the lift shaft, which is where the lift hardware will be. But right now, you can't get out of it, so you have to use the stuck option on the menu. So C deck, this is going to be all the science labs. Right now, obviously, they're just empty rooms.
Very dark rooms.
Yeah, press T for a torch.
Yep.
So this will be a science lab. So this will be full of lab equipment and scientists doing their job.
And obviously they're going to
each-
be interactable as well, I'm assuming.
Yes. And in each type of science discipline will have its own room. So you'll have, like the sign here says oceanography, for example. So each discipline will have a dedicated lab. So you'll have a geology lab, you'll have an astrophysics lab, and depending on what the probe brings up from a planetary surface, you'll have to take it to the correct lab so that they can work on that item.
Obviously TBC is to be continued.
To be confirmed, yeah.
Oh.
Like this one here, one of the forward-facing one. I think we're forward. I kind of lose my bearings on the circle. I need better signage. But one of these rooms is going to have doors which open up to the external of the ship, and this is going to be the drone bay, or the probe bay. So you'll be launching and receiving probes from one of these rooms on C deck around the outer edge.
That'll be interesting when it comes.
Yeah. So, basically every single room on the ship should have a purpose. So none of the rooms will be just set dressing. They'll all have
Obviously,
a
we got
reason for being there.
starboard, quantum physics and astrophysics.
Yes. Yeah, and again, so depending on what it is you find, you could have a new element or a new substance that you've discovered. So you'll take it into the quantum physics lab, and they can do some experimentation on it.
Habitation
So
up of this is probably where the crew would have their beds and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So D and E, at least in the inner sections, are the same. Like, so if you look at one of these, for example, so this is one of the crew cabins. So this represents the whole floor space of a crew cabin. There'll be 3 rooms. So you'll have the main lounge as you walk in, and off to one side you'll have a separate double bedroom and a separate bathroom ensuite. And all of the rooms will have the same layouts, but they're slightly bigger or smaller depending on whereabouts in the saucer you are.
Yeah. I've
They're all
also
approximate.
noticed on the announcements, well, I don't think it's the announcements, oops, because I know that hasn't been updated for a while, but there was a mention about the current updates with the solar thing in the command area, and there was something else that got fixed. I can't remember what it was, but there was definitely 2 things. Oh yeah, that's it. The black hole.
Black hole, yes. Yes, well, we can go and have a look at one of those shortly if you like.
Yeah. Obviously, when we get
if
to
we-
that point, I've got a question specifically for that.
Sure. But while we're on this deck, if we just go around to, I think, this side, the aft section, you
Oh,
can see.
I think this is new. I don't remember seeing this here.
Yeah, it's been here for quite some time. This will eventually be a spiral staircase with a big planter and maybe a tree coming up the middle. So just a nice ornate staircase that's connecting the two decks together.
You know, the amount of times I've been in this corridor, I've not seen that, but I actually saw. I think I remember seeing this over here. Obviously, there's a bit of texture loss here, I think.
Yeah, so this is the unfinished part of the ship, hence the barrier tape. But the windows you can see in front of you, those are the actual windows of the observation booth for the shuttle bay. So I don't know whether you can see the shiny torch down there, but that's the shuttle bay through those windows. So there's still quite a lot of ship yet to come. And in terms of just surface area,
I don't know if
what
the
exists
reflections of the walls or they're actually shuttles behind there.
You can actually see the doors. So there's like an X shape on each of the two doors in the distance.
I can see lined things down there, but can't quite see the X's on them.
But yeah, so basically that's the shuttle bay, and the playtest right now is about 50% of the total floor volume of the ship. So there's still half the ship to go yet.
Check radar. The shuttle bay. My home away from home.
Yeah. If you come and look down through this side, you might find you can see the doors better. So if you just shine your torch in the distance, you should see a glimpse of the shuttle bay doors.
Yeah, a bit like towards the end.
Yeah.
And I think I can see some funny shaped outlines, but I don't know if that's the wall or if that's the actual shuttle holders.
Yeah, it's just the doors. But yeah, so a lot of ships still to go. So if we run on down to engineering, then I'll just give you a very quick demonstration of how that works.
Oh, so this is where the lift would come in handy.
Yeah. I mean, you can cheat and just jump in.
And kill yourself at the same time. I saw you fall on the floor. I've noticed this screen actually tells you where you are. I'm just wondering why the very top screen doesn't actually show a map like that.
The reason being is in order to render the deck map, I really need the internals of the rooms implemented, which on FDeck there's quite a lot of that already done. So I need to go deck by deck, making new maps for those areas. But
Right.
for FDeck, it is accurate. It does show you exactly where you are.
Yeah. I think somewhere on this floor as well there was batteries.
There is, yeah.
Oh, so the thing that I always do when I see these, I disconnect the ones that have got no load because it just bugs me with the orange light.
That's it. Yeah. And yeah, that's right. So it automatically alarms if the interface is enabled, but it's not drawing any electric. It automatically thinks, "Oh, hang on a minute, something's not right there." So it will flash yellow to say something's not working like it should, because it expects a load. So the one at the top has a cable plugged in, so it's happy with that one. But if you turn that off, then out in the corridor, the lights will go out.
So that's obviously going to be part of another, because obviously the ideas of these panels, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you would come down here, and if the lights fail, you would come down, find out which panel it is, and you just simply switch it back on and then test, and then it will tell you if it's failed or load, or no load rather.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And there'll be similar boxes in the corridors themselves as well. So right now, with the way the electrical system works, each deck is split into 4 quadrants. So you've got port, starboard, forward, and aft. And each of those 4 quadrants has a completely isolated power supply, which is the box that we were just using, is one particular quadrant. Now, within that quadrant, there will also be per corridor boxes as well. And you'll be able to use those, for example, just to turn off the lights on one corridor.
Yeah, I've
or indeed
noticed
fix them.
also one of the panels down here, and it's the great massive one. I think it's on the lower deck here.
Yep, this one over here.
Yeah, I was literally going to mention, but you probably already know, but the text is not within the boxes.
Yeah. So basically, anything that's got the whip sticker on it is basically unfinished.
Obviously,
So
I
that's still,
wasn't. I had a feeling at the back of my head that you would know about that, but I wasn't too sure about it.
Yes, yeah. I tried to stick whip stickers on anything that wasn't done yet, so when people were exploring the ship, they could go, it's obviously not done yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually the main reactor feed will be on this panel, so you'll be using that for doing the shutdown and the cold start. And actually, the cold start experience will be one of the things that gets a lot of work for the February demo. So we'll be able to run through a tutorial for starting the ship up from completely being turned off. So going through the checklists, starting the fuel pumps, priming the reactor, getting the power running, and then turning everything on in the bridge and across the ship.
Because I saw a video about it, and obviously you've got one of these here, and then I think there's like a couple of little ones, and for the reactor to start up, you've got to start with the batteries or something.
Yeah, so this panel on here, the one that's not finished, underneath the floor, in fact, underneath the floor here, they're not there yet, but there will be the reactor startup capacitors, and they hold the charge, I guess, like the starter of a car, the starter motor on a car.
Yeah.
And those are used to prime the reactor to start the fusion reaction. And you'll use this panel on the wall over here in order to switch the power to those start capacitors. And then once the reactor's running, you switch it back to a live feed.
Yeah.
But there'll be quite a multi-step process needed to get the reactor started. Balancing the coolant, making sure the magnetic coils are cold enough before you start the reaction. Otherwise, you'll be draining the start capacitors on a reaction that won't start. And if you just keep doing that, you'll drain them dead, and then you'll be stuck without power.
So if that was ever to happen, would there be like I don't know, like a backup generator to boost it while you try and get the power right, and then when the power is back to normal, the backup generators would automatically switch off?
Well, there's two emergency power sources. So on the underside of the hull, there's the ground power connection. So if you're in space dock, they'll be able to plug a cable in from underneath so that the ship can run on shore power, essentially. And I like the idea of being able to plug that into a shuttle. So you can use the power supply on a shuttle to prime and start the fusion reaction.
Yeah. Obviously, I did see through
cool.
the roof as well that one, I think it was up on the very top deck of here. Like I could see up through the little gap, and there's like a control panel up there flashing away. And Claire said you can't get to that yet or something.
That's right. So what you were looking at there, that's the actual data center, the server room. And you know, these small boxes, of which there are one on every deck. So all these cables here on the wall, they run all the way up to B deck. And there will be one of these boxes on every single deck. So the ones you're seeing are the ones for C deck and B deck, which you currently can't get to. But obviously, once the data center is implemented, those will be on the wall in the data center, and you'll be able to get there. And the engineering staircase that's here currently, that will go all the way up to B deck.
Yeah, because
through the data center.
On this panel here, you got A deck supply, and it says no load, even though it's got slight power. But like you said, you can't get to A deck yet.
Yeah, so A deck's not plugged into the live power yet. Where the engineering alcove is on the bridge, there will be an engineering station behind where the where the engineers sit, and that'll be the main breaker box for the bridge. So you'll be able to turn the bridge lights on and off, turn the power supply to the consoles on and off, and that's what these boxes will connect to. So you've got your main distribution frame with its 7 outputs, 1 for each deck, and the bridge and the reactor room, unlike anything else on the ship, are powered by 4 of these distributors all at once. So in order to cut power to the bridge, you'd have to cut power to all 4 quadrants. So it's got quadruple backup, just to make sure that it doesn't ever lose power unless something's really broken.
So if whatever mainly feeds them, like from a main distributor, if that was to fail, then all the little ones would fail.
Yes. Yeah, so like this one over here, if I just disconnect the ones which are not plugged in. So right now it's fine.
Yeah.
But if I turn off the feed over here, you'll see that that box will suddenly start showing an alarm because I've turned off the main distribution frame.
So they're sort of linked together somehow.
Yeah. All of these red cables you can see, apart from the ones from the whip box, they're all physically plugged in to those boxes, and you can literally follow them around the ship. And that will be part of the engineering gameplay. So if there's a fault on a cable, you'll need to follow the cable to find the fault.
Yeah, and obviously it's not going to be as such of an easy task, because if you make it easy, then, you know, it's not going to be much fun.
That's it, and you'll have a tool. So engineers will have a handheld tool which they can wave over things to locate faults. Should we go and find a black hole then?
Yeah, why not?
It's a shame you can't fall up the lift shaft. That would be quicker.
Or climb up.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you add like some type of temporary ladder, then it will probably work.
Yeah. Just actually, while we're stood here, a quick note on the layout of the deck. We had a lot of questions as to why the entrance to the bridge is via the VIP lounge.
Yeah.
In some ways, yes, that was a poor design choice, and we will be fixing that on the next ship. But where you're stood, this is actually going to be a security desk. And the idea is, you know, whether you exit the lift or come up the stairs, you will not be able to get anywhere on B deck or indeed A deck without passing a security desk. And there'll be the same on F deck in engineering. You will not be able to get anywhere without passing a security officer.
So that's
So it's
obviously
kind of
when those badges or passes start coming into play.
That's it, yeah. So it's just to make sure that crew access to all the secure areas is managed at all times.
Yeah, if you want to get as well pinpoint where the black hole is, because I did try looking for it earlier and I couldn't find it.
Okay, so we do actually have a spreadsheet with all that on it, so I will just look at that in a sec. So right now, looking at our galactic coordinates, so we're 25,856 light years from the galactic core, 44 light years on the y-axis, and 57 on the z-axis. So if I just go and find the spreadsheet a second.
I've noticed there's been a bit of a change to the I think that thing in the middle is called an Unos.
I pronounce it UNOS, in honor of Unix.
Right.
So it's the United Nations operating system, but yeah, UNOS after Unix.
Because I've noticed that those blue, yellowy, orangey colours are the different planets and stars.
Yes, yeah, it's just a category of what type of object it is.
Obviously, another tablet that I could pick up.
Yeah, I'm sure that will phase through just like the last one?
Actually, no. I kind of threw it on the floor, but it
Oh, well
sits.
done.
Well, it sits on the chair, okay, but then it fell on the floor. So
Right, so
obviously
apparently,
that question for the black hole, why you're finding it on the spreadsheet.
mm,
Um, what happens if you enter a black hole?
so it's quite trippy. Space kind of folds in around you when you fly into it, but that won't be possible in the long run. So as you enter the accretion disk of the black hole, there'll be a rumbling sound, and the ship will start shaking. And the closer you get to the event horizon, the louder that will become, and the more violently the ship will shake, to the point where you just take too much damage and explode.
Yeah,
So
because
so
I
you won't.
think when we first flew to it before it was fixed, we was actually inside the black hole and it was like glitching out on the windows. But there was a defined like sound where the ship was making creaking, clunking noises.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. Um, and the ambient noise on the ship, again, I want it to sound like a real ship. So I want to hear the metal creaking and straining. If the ship is under duress.
so obviously now that we set a waypoint, are we supposed to be flying inside the globe like we just did just then?
No, and eventually you won't be able to fly through planets, but it's it's quite a complex system to make the ship fly in the first place. So we need the ship to be aware of its surroundings in terms of, is there a planet in front of me? And that's just, development that still needs to happen.
Even if like the the auto navigation when you engage it, it like plans its way path around the world, well, around the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just need to. There are many systems that still need to be added, and that's just one of the many. But yeah, in the long run, I think initially it'll probably just drop you out of FTL and say, nope, there's something in the way, emergency stop. So it'll be up to the pilot to fly the ship around whatever's in the way.
That's when you start using the yaw and the pitch buttons.
Yes. Yeah, and well, you can use the keyboard to fly the ship.
Yeah,
It's actually
W
it's
is
quite
to go
fun.
forward for the power, then S is to slow down the power, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, and you can hold shift to do it in steps of 10 rather than steps of 1.
Oh yeah.
It's it, it's a bit fiddly to begin with once you get the hang, but once you do get the hang of it, you're able to fly around planets, skim around a planet's rings. It's yeah, it's quite nice just to fly around the solar system.
Targeting screen. Now, I can't remember if that was displaying nav target, sensor target, closest stars and system objects.
Yeah, so that's the labels that you see out of the window. So by default, they're all on. I think I'm going to change it so that the system objects defaults to off, because as you approach a system, you just get a mess of labels on the screen. But if you look up now, you'll see there's a couple of stars drifting past. So it'll add a label for the 10 closest objects.
Yeah, because I don't know when I first played the playtest. I know I've pretty sure I distinctly remember seeing the targeting, but there was nothing on that screen. It was just like blank.
Yes, that's something that's been added since.
I thought so. Because I did recall not seeing anything on that screen.
Yeah, I believe we've had 4 updates since the beginning of October so far. So that's not bad going. I did plan a minimum of 1 update per week, and I think we've pretty much met that so far.
Honestly, at first when I saw the lighting, I thought that said lightning. Like outside lightning of the ship and all sorts, but no. Because obviously in the galaxy, when you're like flying, you tend to go inside of a lightning storm, and it affects the ship how it performs, and when it gets struck by a lightning bolt, like for example, the power would like go low, but it would also blow out a cable.
Yep, absolutely. There will be lightning effects actually on the back of the ship, because the outer hull needs a complete redesign, and that's something I'll be doing during November. But the idea is that the actual FTL hardware will rise up out of the hull at the back, rather than having the big wing, and that'll have electricity crackling between the two field emitters. So that should look quite cool when it's done.
Oh yeah, and especially the sounds as well.
Yes, absolutely. We've actually got a really talented sound guy that's been helping on the project, and I haven't really had the time to sit down with him and go through it properly, but he's got some really good plans for how to implement the soundscape on the game. So when we've got time to really go into that properly, the game will be a lot more alive in terms of its audio, because it's quite a quiet ship at the moment. There's really not a lot of audible feedback to things.
Or obedient noises.
Yeah.
Because obviously,
Yes,
I think you're the only developer that's coding the game. Is that right?
I am, yeah. So I've been building this game for 2 years now. It always takes longer than I ever expected to. So I'll have a plan, and I think, right, this week I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I managed to get X and Y done. And then Z gets pushed back to next week, and then next week something else gets pushed back, and it's the nature of game dev always takes longer than you expect it to. See, especially when it's just you working on it.
Yeah, obviously a lot of us do appreciate your time and effort into like coding the game and everything, and we know how hard and busy you can get, but has there been times where you thought to yourself, what happens if I get another like second coder on the game? One, it would probably like help with the development, and two, it would like sort of speed up the process a little bit quicker as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, expanding the team is very much the point of the Kickstarter. So in March, we're going to launch a Kickstarter campaign, which will be on the back of the February Steam Next Fest. And the absolute point of that Kickstarter is to expand the team and to take on more developers. We've had offers of help from people, but I'm not going to be taking on volunteers. So any developers that work for the project will be proper, contracted, paid developers.
Yeah. See, I would love to be one of them people, but the only problem because I'm autistic, the only problem I have is like when I'm playing Stationeers, it's like IC10 coding, which is MIPS, and yes, I've got Visual Studio Code, but I just can't get the code with like the commands and like variables right.
Yep.
So I'm still sort of learning that in Stationeers, because it's an open type source of coding for your base for survival.
Yeah, nice.
And
I
I
love it when coding's brought into games like that.
Yeah. Like if there is a way of someone like teaching me to be able to code and being like a one-to-one for me, it might take me that extra time to get it in my head, but once I know what I'm doing, then it should be a breeze for myself.
Yeah, the best thing I can suggest is just hit YouTube, watch as much as you can, and just do it. And I'm completely self-taught. I mean, I did C++ in college, but that was about 30 years ago. No, about 25 years ago. I find the quickest way to learn is just to do. Just keep writing code, keep causing errors, keep causing bugs, but then you learn how to fix those bugs. And once you've learned how to fix them, then you learn not to do them again the next time. And it's just a growth process. Learn
Like,
by doing.
yeah, it's like years ago, because I've still got Unity installed on my computer. I've recently reinstalled it. And obviously I play Roblox as well, and it's all about coding, which is, can't remember what type of coding they use, but it's pretty much a script, and you've got to do it from fresh, and there's some tutorials on the actual game itself. And obviously I'm trying to learn. That's why when I watch Cows Are Evil, because he actually does some IC10 programming tutorials on his channel.
Nice.
And obviously I've been testing out codes, all sorts of things on Stationeers, but one of the troubles I had was I did something with the code, and every single machine that I linked to the IC housing was constantly turning on and off, and all you could hear is click, 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 click.
Nice.
And then you had like pipes that were getting overpressured, they would burst, then you'd get pollutants in the base, you'd start injuring yourself.
Yeah, it sounds like my day job. I literally just fight bugs all day when I'm programming. But that's part of the fun of game dev. And a lot of developers really hate the bug fixing aspect of development, but I actually quite enjoy it. I find it therapeutic to go through the list of bug tickets and clear them off one by one, and figure out why something isn't working properly. It's just like doing a puzzle, and I just find it quite enjoyable.
Yeah, it's like one of the last saved games I did with Stationeers. I saved it at the wrong point, and every time I loaded it to try and take off a tank that was overpressured, because it had a red bar on it, before I could even get there, it would blow up, and then I would die and fly in the air.
Oh dear.
And there'd be times where there's been too much like high pressure coming out of the pipes, and I get smacked against the wall and I kill myself.
Well, luckily that doesn't happen when I'm programming, so that's good.
No, but it's just part of just how Rocket Works has made their game to make it like semi-funny as well.
Yeah. I did toy with the idea of including an actual scripting language within StarSim. And as cool as that would be, I think it will make it slightly too niche. I probably will include console commands on the actual terminals on the bridge and around the ship, so you'll be able to access a device on another deck and maybe shut that device down using a console command. But I think beyond that, I'll stop short of actually scripting on the ship.
Because also I don't know how you lay out your scripts, but I'm sure it's in like sections where it's not like extended and you don't know what is what.
Oh, I'm a stickler for commenting code. I guess I'm one of those people that would like do everything in different colors and underline it, and everything's color coded.
Yeah, see, obviously with my disability, I like to have things like in certain places that I want, and if someone moves it, it like kind of annoys me.
Yeah, I think that happens to everyone. I think we're just about to arrive.
I've got another question here. I made like a little question list.
Sure, shoot away.
How will the investigation work, scanning and meeting non-human form, like aliens type thing?
So when I get around to adding the planetary surface scanning, you will be able to target a planet and then scan the surface of that planet, and indeed whatever is orbiting that planet. and that will tell you whether or not intelligent life exists, and if so, what the technology level of that life is. And it could be like a Stone Age civilization, in which case there's nothing you can really do other than just be aware of their existence. Maybe send down a probe and retrieve some pottery or something. From a purely academic perspective, it could be interesting just to research what that Stone Age civilization's like on that planet. But if they're a technological civilization and they have the ability to be communicated with, there will be several stages of how that's represented in the game world. So if they are reasonably reasonably young race that, for example, have managed to achieve radio communication but not, say, video communication, then you'll be able to call them via radio and have a radio conversation. Again, multiple choice text is the way that'll be represented to the player.
Yeah.
If they're slightly more advanced and they have video, maybe you could have a black and white video screen on the holo display, like a 2D screen. Slightly more advanced, it could be in color. And if they're really advanced, you can actually have a 3D hologram of a head and shoulders of a procedurally generated alien person.
Yeah.
So I really want to have the way you communicate with the alien species be colored by how advanced they are, which I think should be quite a unique approach of how you deal with them.
I'm very interested.
Absolutely. I think we've stopped short of the black hole.
Yeah, I was
itself,
just
so
about to say what's happened there.
Yeah, we're 900 odd thousand kilometers away, so I'll just autopilot us closer.
Check Ride Air. They put in the live chat. I think I was one that offered to help with some stuff.
Yeah, I think so, actually, if I recall. And absolutely, super grateful for any offers of help. Absolutely. But in terms of running the studio and the fact that this is a commercial product, just for keeping everything clean, we want to make sure that everything's covered by contracts. People that work on the project are paid properly for working on the project. So we really can't look at taking on volunteers.
Well, we're at the black hole.
We are indeed. I'm going to take manual control of the ship and fly us in.
Check Ride Air also said with many things, lol.
Yeah, definitely.
I must say the black hole looks a lot better because I don't think the white outline was there before. I think it was some type of different lines.
Yeah, I think the version you saw was probably the bugged version, but they're all working properly now, and every black hole is unique.
I thought, why couldn't I walk forward? I was stuck on the barrier.
And you'll notice that as we get lower around the event horizon, you'll see that the lensing effect is lensing the accretion disk.
Yeah, I can see like towards the top, it's just got a great big line right through it.
Yeah. So if I fly us closer into the event horizon, you can see what it looks like when we actually enter into the black hole itself. See, it starts to envelop the ship.
Oh. Are we inside it or are we gone through it?
Just popped through the event horizon. Here, let me go inside and I shall stop the ship.
Oh.
Through. This one's actually a very, very tiny black hole.
Oh.
It's so small that even at 30 kilometers a second, it's we whiz straight through it. This must be one of the more Pluto-sized ones.
Check Rider, yeah. Maybe one day I'll join the team under contract.
Absolutely. And again, that's the whole point of the Kickstarter. It's to give us enough funding to be able to afford to take on more help, more developers.
Yeah. Obviously, when you was mentioned something about the DLCs earlier,
Yeah.
will some of them like be free, or obviously I know some will probably you have to pay for just to help with the development.
Yeah, so the single player campaigns are all going to be paid add-ons, because one, they're going to be a significant amount of work, and two, they're going to require things like voice actors and other expensive resources in order to make. So whereas right now it's just me making this, I spend about 12 to 15 hours a day working on the project, and it's not really costing me anything other than time, food, and electric.
Yeah.
But once we start getting into developing really deep, engaging single player story mode campaigns, then a lot more people need to be involved, and that's going to cost a lot more money. Because if there's one thing you learn very quickly with this sort of thing, is good people cost lots of money, and the more talented, the more experienced those people are, the more money they cost. So if you want to build a AAA team for a game like this, you're talking hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, per year. Yeah, the average wage for a C++ developer is about 60,000 a year.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
yeah.
I'm applying for a HGV license.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I was told that they're crying out for lorry drivers, and apparently the wages are quite good.
Yeah, I believe they are. I think it's something to do with antisocial hours.
Because I've got most of the paperwork filled in. It's just waiting for my adoption certificate to come through the post.
Ah, very cool.
Because we had to buy a replacement because I lost the original.
Ah.
And obviously DVLA will not accept photocopies of any type of documents.
No, indeed. So I'm flying us towards a nebula.
Is that purple
I
thing in front?
Yeah, I just spotted it out the corner of my eye as we were orbiting around the black hole. That's one of the new things that's been added in the last update. So that will be an open cluster. So that's a star forming region. So you'll find a handful of B and O class stars surrounded by a blue nebula.
I wonder if that's
It's
what
about
actually
50 light
happens.
years.
I wonder if that happens in the real galaxy as well.
It does indeed. That's that they're called H2 regions. It's where the gases and the dust in the galactic arms has coalesced enough to condense and collapse into stars.
Because I know, I think it's after a couple of years, a star dies but a new one gets born.
It depends. If they're big enough, they'll collapse into either neutron stars or black holes. If they're not massive enough for that, then they can just explode into a planetary nebula.
I wonder what it's like in the real world to be actually near a star. I wonder what it would look like. I know it's going to be a very bright light.
Yeah, fairly bright and hot, I would have thought. There's that Parker Solar Probe that is near the sun at the moment, and I can't recall what they said the temperature was, but it's significantly hot, and it's not really even that close. and the same will be true for StarSim as well. So just like with the black holes, you won't be able to go close to the surface of stars because the ship will melt.
Yeah. There was another question about how will the coolant and fuel section work like? Will there be like a limited amount of fuel where you have to fly to like a ship to get like a refill, and then, you know, sort your business out from there?
Yes. So the fuel that's used on the ship, at least in terms of the FTL, um, is the fuel that's feeding the reactor, because the systems are electrical. So they're not using fuel themselves, but obviously fuel is needed to generate the electric that powers them. So the reactor has to be turned up to full in order to operate the FTL, because it's the most energy hungry system on the ship and it draws all of the power from the reactor. So whilst the reactor is on full power, it's really burning through its fuel. The reactor is fueled by deuterium and helium-3. It fuses those products together in order to create fusion and electricity. And in order for that reaction to be maintained, the magnetic coils that contain the plasma flow also need to be kept cool. So you've also got liquid nitrogen in the mix as well. So really, you've got three fuel sources or three resources that are required and will deplete in order to run the fusion reactor. And I plucked a number out of thin air, and right now it's about 100 light years worth of full power before you need to stop and refuel.
Yeah.
And the way you'll do that is you'll find a gas giant, and if that gas giant has a lot of helium and hydrogen in its atmosphere, you'll be able to scoop that with the ship. So you'll be able to fly close to the surface of gas giants, and that's how the ship will refuel itself. Secondary to that, you'll also be able to mine asteroids at some point, and you might be able to find helium-3 resources on asteroids along with many other different minerals. But the primary way of refueling is skimming gas giants.
So obviously when you're like harvesting, let's say, an asteroid like you were saying, won't it have to go through like some type of machine to get processed before it can be turned into actual fuel?
Yeah, so the way a lot of the systems will work in terms of resource usage, um, so there will be 3D printers on the ship, and those 3D printers are the main way of producing replacement parts or anything like that. Now they will work on the basis of taking the elements that are used in that object and then stitching those elements together to 3D print at an atomic level the object you want. So there will be storage bins which will be on a per element basis. So you'll have like an iron storage bin, a titanium storage bin, and when you mine an asteroid, the hardware on the mining craft will be able to split the material into its own internal storage bins, which when you then get back to the main ship, you'll be able to plug in a hose and that will go and be distributed to the main storage bins for the main
Yeah.
ship itself. And the
I-
same will be true for the fuel as well.
Yeah. Is there any like type of teasers that you've got in your mind that a lot of people should get hyped for?
Well, that's a good question. So I think one of the things that I'm personally most excited for is the exploring of alien derelicts. So I really love the system that Diablo uses. I've been a huge Diablo fan for many years, and one of the great mechanics in Diablo is the dungeons are all procedurally generated, so you never really get the same game twice.
Yeah.
And I'm going to employ the same technique with alien stations and alien ships. So if you find an alien station that's maybe been left and derelict, you'll be able to board that with a shuttle, and its interior will be a procedurally generated dungeon of sorts that will have puzzles in some cases to get through different sections, and there'll be things within that that you can find and loot and take back to your ship. So that's something that I'm personally really looking forward to. Um,
And I think everyone else
Beyond
should.
that,
I think everyone else should be hyped for that as well.
yeah, it's going to be yeah, some interesting gameplay there, especially if it's not quite so abandoned and you've got some hostile aliens trying to prevent your access or taking umbrage to your presence.
Well, it's like, you know me,
Um,
from what I said earlier, I'm already excited about the equipment and systems gonna get put in at some point.
yeah, absolutely. And one of the other aspects of exploring the galaxy, um, I said at the beginning, one of my favorite sci-fis is actually Babylon 5.
Yeah,
And I love the concept in Babylon 5 that there are some alien species that are so advanced, so ancient, that we are nothing but insects to them. And that will very much be the case in Starship Simulator as well. So there will be alien races procedurally generated completely randomly in the galaxy, um, that are incredibly ancient compared to humanity, and they will either completely ignore your presence, or they could perhaps like fling you hundreds of light years away for simply entering their space, or they could be extremely xenophobic and they just attack you on sight. So I love the idea of the community as a whole getting together to map and record where certain alien species are, because it's the same galaxy for all players, because it's seed based. If you find an alien race that is particularly awesome, then you can share the location of that planet with another person and they can explore it on their game.
yeah,
And I love, what really excites me is the community doing mapping projects and kind of recording where the alien races are, who they are, how advanced they are, and where to avoid. Like, don't go to this star system, you will get killed, sort of thing.
yeah. But that bit where you said they can either fling you many light years away, I think that'll be a bit fun to actually like experience.
Yeah, for sure. And at the same time, procedural wormholes are something that I very much have planned. So because it's procedural, I love this about the galaxy. I don't know where anything is, even though I'm the one programming it. Because it's procedural, only the algorithm knows where things are. So there will be wormholes, and I won't know where they are. So I'll be looking for them as much as players are. And the other side of that wormhole could literally be anywhere in the galaxy. Again, I don't know. So that's going to be fun as well.
Yeah, because obviously everything's going to be randomly generated at certain areas and different points, and you got to travel to find them.
Absolutely. And I imagine that players will probably come up with some kind of a wormhole network map at some point, years down the line, once they've all been discovered.
Yeah, like for for example, like a Ryan's Belt version.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think there are so many things about the game that I'm excited for. There's almost too many, and I want to get on and make it all now. I want to just work on everything all at once, but I have to be kept honest by Claire. She keeps me straight and true on what I'm working on, and she project manages me quite harshly.
Yeah, to be honest though, I didn't actually know Claire Bear or Claire Bob that she's now known as. I didn't know she was your missus.
Yes, yeah, yeah. We met about 10 years ago now, and got married last year.
I thought she was in like a separate house and you was just friends.
No, no, no. We are in separate rooms, so I've got my own office where I do all my development work. And her computer's in the lounge, so I'm away in my dungeon with my headphones on, working away.
This is just another question that's just come out of my head.
Hmm.
Would you ever, like, obviously when you're not, busy doing your normal work, would you ever think about considering of like because I know you have your own channel, and Starship Simulator has their own channel. Also, guys,
Yeah.
if you want to check out Dan's channel and stay at Starship Simulator's YouTube channel, the links are down below. But have you ever thought about like having a live chat type session with the community to like sort of get the community together?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've discussed with Claire quite a few times. Um, one of the things I have planned and have had planned for a while now, and I keep just not doing it because I just don't have the time, is I want to put out a video overview every time I release a new patch. So, for example, I released a patch yesterday. What I should be doing is recording a video, sticking it on YouTube, and saying, right, this is the new patch, this is what's been added, this is the new stuff. And I think the community would probably appreciate that from the developer. Um, and at the same time, yes, I think it would be good to do some gameplay live streams. But as you say, it's all about time, really. Because it's just me working on the game. Finding the time to fit things in is always a challenge.
Yeah, and also it's like Pyramid Games. They're currently working Occupy Mars, and
Oh yeah, I've seen that. It looks good.
they've literally got a massive team, and you've got I've forgotten the two lads that normally pop in the stream. They are some type of developers, but they also, I think they test the game and see if there's any bugs, or try and break the game to see if there's any bugs.
Hmm.
Conrad and the other one, I've forgotten the other guy's name.
I don't know personally.
Yeah, I sometimes tune in on their streams because they stream on YouTube and Twitch as well. Every time they play Occupy Mars, or they explain what's being currently worked on.
Yeah, I mean, there's absolutely value in doing that, and it's definitely what people would want to see.
And obviously,
And
personally, from a YouTuber to a YouTuber, because I know you haven't got many videos on your channel, and I think once you record footage or stream the footage of obviously your game in general, I am pretty sure that a lot of people will subscribe to your channel and obviously keep with the updates.
yeah, I have no doubts. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the primary motivation here is to get people interested in the game.
Yeah.
So, I'm not really so interested in
Even
channel
if it's like
subscriptions.
a video or a stream that's not physically available to the public in the playtest, but some type of teaser of you, for example, playing around with the fuel and the coolant section. Once people see that video, they'll think, "Ooh, that'll be exciting to play with when it releases." So it's sort of a Kickstarter for that type thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Claire's always telling me that I really should put a video out, and I say, yeah, I know, I really should, honestly. But yeah, again, it's just about finding the time. From my general daily routine is Claire will drag me out of bed, stick the kettle on, I'll have a cup of tea, catch up on the day's news, and then I'll just get stuck into programming. And I barely move at that point for the next 12, 15 hours. It's and finding some time in that to put a video together is always a challenge.
Yeah, because I obviously we know that you get really busy with obviously developing, and obviously when your mind is set on one specific task, you forget that you have your own channel.
Yeah,
Unless
yeah.
you've got people like me bugging you about it.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, the whole point of the Starsim YouTube channel is really just there as an information resource for potential players and people that are interested in the game. And it definitely does need to be updated a lot more often. And there's another extension to that, in that I did a live stream on Steam, and I didn't realize at the time, but Steam doesn't actually save the live streams. They expect you to save them yourself.
There is
So
a thing called a restream though.
yes, yeah, and I think next time I'll be doing the live stream on YouTube because you can then use that on Steam after the fact. So I'll probably lean towards doing that.
Yeah, because obviously I've got on the featured channels on my channel, I've got your channel on there and Starship Simulator's channel on there.
Yeah, I don't think I've actually touched mine in probably quite a few years.
Well, I've just checked it, and you've obviously had that YouTube channel since 2006.
Yes, it's it's been around a while.
But yeah, I thought I would be like respectful and like post it on the featured channels on the front of my YouTube channel. So if people do catch their eye, they can always, click on it and see what you're up to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a video on there of me eating a scorpion.
I
Random.
don't think don't think I saw that video. I might have to check that out later.
Yeah. I think I had I've got two YouTube channels because there was some mix up with Google back in the day. The whole Google Plus thing when Google started enforcing Google accounts on YouTube, and everything got mixed up, and for some reason my YouTube channel turned into two YouTube channels.
Oh.
So I can never work out which one I'm logged into.
Well, surely when you look at it on YouTube, whatever one you've logged into, I'm pretty sure you'll says, I don't know if the one that I've seen is your main channel with the picture of your face.
Well, just to confuse myself even more, I use the same picture on both channels.
Oh.
Just to make my life even harder. Oh yeah, it's got all my my very old original World of Warcraft videos from back in the day. I posted my first video 14 years ago. Crazy.
Check Raid Air. I don't know if Claire is in a live chat.
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, he just said Claire and then an exclamation mark at the end. So I think he's thinking that she's in the chat, but I don't think she is. Oh no, Claire Bob is. Hey Claire Bob. Yeah, your miss is in the chat. I've just seen her message pop up. Actually,
she's very good at catching people's live streams. There's barely a Star Sim live stream that she doesn't find her way onto.
Claire Bob, I know you don't often tune into my streams, but I've actually made you a moderator now as well. So, welcome to the community. Because obviously Claire is very friendly and respectful as well.
Absolutely.
I've noticed with all the DMs that we speak to each other about.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a great community manager for the project. It's just something that comes naturally, which is really good.
Yeah.
Claire also manages all of the social media pages, so if you ever speak to someone, want it to.
Yeah, if you need to speak to someone, speak to her.
Yeah, unless it's something really technical, in which case she forces me to answer it.
Well, it's a bit like that time in the Discord community. I was literally kicking off about something, and I wasn't meaning to be that annoyed, but it's just the way that person put it in his message, that really pissed me off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was something to do with the helm. He was trying to kick me because I wouldn't leave the helm.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And then I started saying, well, I'm obviously the commander and you're a crew member. Normally crew members don't have authority over the commander, but like Claire said in the DM to me, she said it's like in his server, in his multiplayer server, he makes the rules type thing.
Yes, and adding more controls and functionality for server hosts is definitely something that's on the to-do list, because right now there's far too much of a possibility for trolls joining a server, joining a game, and just messing around. So is why I suggested to you to limit the number of players to 2 for this particular server, so we don't have random people messing everything up.
Yeah. It's
But
like
yeah, in a multiplayer environment, it's imperative that the host has full control over everything.
yeah. Are we actually? How far are we away from that? How many like light years or miles?
I'm not sure actually. I know the nebula is 50 light years wide. So I imagine we're probably about 100 light years away or so.
It'd be nice if the helm
Probably.
would actually tell you how far you are away.
It will do
Oh, hang
if
on.
you enter the coordinates.
Velocity.
It's
Oh,
a-
no, that I'm looking at the wrong thing.
yeah, I don't.
Distance 120,121.
Yeah, so the distance it's showing you is the distance to where we were. So that was the black hole that's still currently entered as the nav targets. The nebula doesn't actually have a physical presence on any of the sensors. It's just there in space, so I don't actually know what its coordinates are.
Also on the navigation, you've got like, oh, okay, I know what the data entry is now. It's where you manually put in the coordinates.
That's right, yeah.
Because
So,
at first I
could-
was actually playing around with it, thinking, okay, so we've got a data entry. I wonder if it will like come up with some data, like of certain things.
So eventually, and the reason it's got letters on it, that will be a full keyboard at some point, is you'll be able to save locations in the galaxy while you're exploring. So if you find a particularly cool planet or somewhere useful, you can just save that as a bookmark, and then recall that, as needed whenever you need to go back to that position.
And obviously there'll be a thing where you can overwrite it if you want to.
Yes, yeah. So I think we're getting pretty close now. I can start to see a lot of the structure in the nebula.
I can see black lines, like that looks like cracks.
Yeah, that's all the dense gas. Have you been through a nebula yet?
No, actually, this is my first time.
Ah, they're really quite cool once you get up close, because being a three-dimensional volumetric shader, you can actually fly through the gas clouds, which is really cool.
I didn't even know that there was this. Well, mind you, you said it's sort of a new thing that's been added.
Yeah, so I had a test nebula in the previous build, but this is the first one where it's now spawning them in the wild.
Oh, so it's like a time spawn type thing then.
Yeah, so there's a 1% chance that any of the sectors in the galactic arms will be an open cluster, which again is a gaseous star forming region, and by their very nature they have nebula around them, and eventually, right now all of them look the same as this particular nebula. They're all blue ones, but they'll be procedural, so every single nebula will be different to the last one in some way. Different colors, different shapes, different sizes.
Yeah.
So, one of the challenges of keeping the exploration gameplay deep and engaging is it has to always be interesting. So like right now, because all the nebula are the same, one open cluster is the same as the next, and that really takes away from exploring open clusters because it's not different. But once they're all unique and completely, dramatically different, then there's value in exploring them because each one's a new experience. And I want to, extend that principle to everything in the galaxy. So no two star systems should be similar. They should all be different in their own way.
Yeah. I think there's a question from Czech Raid Air. I don't know if this is for you to answer or it is for Claire Bob, but he's put, how well do you think the game would do with a full crew of 200 people?
Well, in multiplayer, the most people I've seen is 13, and with 13 people, it ran fine. We didn't seem to have any problems at all. So the network architecture is running on on Steam's servers, so it's using the Steam matchmaking service to host the games. So obviously, Steam have pretty beefy servers, and the network code is the same network code that's used in Fortnite because it's Unreal Engine. So, between the two, the network infrastructure and the network code should be fairly robust. So a couple of dozen players should be fine. I mean, I would certainly love to see 200 people in one game. The server limit's currently 999, so the challenge is set. Get as many people into a game as you can and see how it goes.
I can imagine when you get 999 people in, I can guarantee it's going to be really hectic. Like, you wouldn't be able to move around because so many people are in the same room as you.
Yeah. I used to do raids in World of Warcraft back when they had 40-man raids, and organizing 40 players to do the same thing at the same time is like herding cats or stacking marbles. It's just impossible.
Check right there. That's my plan, to get 200 people into one game.
Yeah. There are 200 crew quarters on the ship, so one player per crew quarters.
Talking about, obviously, because I know you can lock the doors with a code.
Yes.
Someone was mentioning, there was going to be something developed where the host can create an override code for the doors. Because at the moment, when I set a separate code that no one else knows, they can just put in 4 zeros and it will unlock the door.
Yes. So as part of the host controls, that will be one of the things you can set. So you'll be able to choose what the command override code is ship-wide.
And obviously, when the door's locked as well, it doesn't open automatically, but is there going to be a way where it, even though the code's been set for the door to lock, no one else can manually open it, but will it automatically still open and close unless there's obviously a fault with the sliding doors, which then you have to use the override code?
No, once you've locked it, it's locked. It won't open. So you can physically lock people in rooms. I'm not sure what gameplay value there is in that, but it's one of those things where I was building a system for the doors, and I wanted the door control panel to be feature complete. So part of that was the ability to lock the door. If that was a real world door, then you would expect it to still open from the inside, even though it's locked. Which I might implement at some point, so that you can't physically be locked into a room unless it's like a cell.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like with everything on the ship. If I'm going to add a control panel or a system, it's going to be as real as it possibly can be.
Also, I know you're making it as realistic as you can, but I was just coming up with that idea because obviously some of the systems you've already explained, they're going to have a fail function on them anyway. So I would have thought, why not have the automatic doors have the same perspective?
Yes, yeah, they'll be able to fail as much as anything else. And if power is cut to a deck, then that will also stop the doors from opening. And then the only way to open them will be to be able to an engineer will have to connect their engineering tool to power the door using an external power source.
So would that be like a laptop or a tablet type thing?
Yeah, it would be like a handheld tablet device with a wire, and they'll be able to just plug into a port on the external side of the door, and then they'll be able to power the door temporarily to be able to get it open, or to override the code or hack the door, something like that.
Yeah. Now we're getting pretty
Looks
close
like
to it.
we're yep, we're starting to pass into it now. You should be able to see that the 3D structure of the nebula now.
I can see sort of a 3D nebula.
Kind of it shows how big it is when you consider that we're moving at 570 light years an hour and it's barely moving.
Well, if you stare up the top for a bit, you can actually see it slightly moving.
Yeah.
So it is moving in a way, but very slowly.
Yes, yeah. Well, being 50 light years wide, it's a huge nebula.
And you got to think
Well,
like, obviously, like you got the white clouds, as I would call it. Obviously, you've got the wind blowing towards you as well, because you're at high speed, so it's not going to make it that fast.
Yep. Well, nebulas will blow outward from the star birthing regions. The supernova and the solar wind from the newborn O and B class stars naturally dissipate nebula. But obviously we won't be simulating that in the game.
No. It's very rare I do like a Q&A stream on my channel. Obviously my channel is mainly about gameplay, VR gaming, but I thought, why not give my viewers and subscribers something different?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't done many interviews or live streams about the game yet. I do need to do more, so it's good practice.
Yeah. And obviously if there's anything cool or awesome that you want to showcase, you know, you can always hook me up and I can set something up. Because I'll be more than happy to like work with you with the game to show off some of the bits that you've been working on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's what I normally say to anybody that I speak to is I'll be more than happy to like work with you. So we're like sort of I wouldn't say sort of a team because I'm technically not classed as a team in your department, but you get the rift.
Yeah.
Like I know Claire Bob is like I know she's a HR person, but I think she does all the media posts as well, I'm assuming.
She does, yep. She manages all the social media. I've never been one for social media myself, so yeah, I'm grateful that she manages all of that.
It's like I've got one follower on Twitter at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better than none.
Yeah, I do sometimes stream on Twitch as well, but I've got like 14 followers on there, but I've not streamed on there for a while. Because the only reason why I've stuck with YouTube is because I'm like sat at 2.something K subscribers, and I'm trying to, you know, build up my subscribers and view counts.
Sure.
Especially like the maximum of 4,000 views for me to then be able to be eligible for YouTube partnership.
Ah, right.
Because I know there's many YouTubers out there that don't actually have a job and they just use YouTube to, you know, get paid.
Yeah, those are the lucky ones.
I'm sort of a 50-50 guy, which means even if I am earning from YouTube, I'm still got a real job as well, so I've got extra earnings coming in.
Yeah, well, that's the best way if you're still building up a channel. There was a YouTuber I used to watch who used to cover the Orville, and he really struggled to do it full time, and that's what he had to do in the end. He had to have a supplemental income because, if you haven't got the viewership and you haven't got the numbers, it's just not practical to do it full time.
No. And there's been like many times in the past where I was actually thinking of quitting YouTube, but I kept going against it. Because not only just that, I'm going to sort of ruin the reputation on my channel as well. Which means if I, just shut down my channel at 2.3k subscribers, then there's a possible chance that I won't get to that as quick as possible again.
Yeah,
The annoying thing is, I think for every YouTuber is like when they have people unsubscribe, and when you look at the analytics on your channel, it tells you like minus 11 subscribers have left.
yeah, I can imagine that's frustrating.
Yes, very, especially when YouTubers like myself are trying to push out content, something different each time.
You're all slaves to the algorithm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we're pretty much in the heart of the nebula now.
At first it didn't look like it, but now looking at the top and then all around.
Yeah, if I just turn off the FTL so the FTL effect goes away, and you can see the structure more.
It's like a tree with branches coming all out of it.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I need to write some code for procedurally generating the noise textures, and then we'll come up with some truly weird and wonderful shapes.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
It's like when clouds make horseshoes.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I think I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to leave us parked in this nebula.
Yep.
Thanks for having me on the stream. It's been great to be able to speak about the game. It's my favourite subject to talk about. That's Claire will attest.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries at all. Obviously, at first I thought I wasn't going to be able to DM you because I was asking Claire, would I be even able to DM Dan? Because I know some developers have their DMs turned off and you can only like message them if you've got them as friend on Discord.
Yeah, I'm pretty accessible, really. I never
I think there's been
turn
a few
people
times
away.
where I've like sent you emails as well.
Yeah, it'll be Claire that picks those up usually.
But yeah, thank you for coming on.
You're welcome, and yeah, thank you for loving the game. I mean, it's still early days, but there's a lot to come, and hopefully this will just grow and improve over time until it becomes something truly extraordinary.
Yep, and is there anything you would like to say to chat before obviously you sign out?
I think the only thing I would say is if you haven't tried the playtest yet, then please do go to Steam, give it a try, and we're always looking to take it further and do more. And if you can see your way to backing the game, we truly appreciate it, because the more we can get, bigger we can make the team, the faster we can bring this out, and the more we can get done.
And check Radar, thank you for watching. Yes, we will see you in Discord again.
That's it, to the bar.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks again for giving me your time and, I wouldn't say effort because I don't want to come across a bit rude with that.
No, it's all good, all good.
But yeah, if you ever
All right.
have anything to show off, just, hook me up, DM me, do whatever you can to get in touch, and yeah.
I definitely will do. All right, thanks again, and I shall see you around.
See you later.
Cheer, bye.
Bye-bye. So that's it. That's going to be the stream today, guys. If you did like and enjoy the stream, then please like, subscribe, turn on post notifications so you don't miss any more content, hopefully like this again. And thank you for tuning in. Oh yeah, and don't forget to follow me on Twitter. But that is me done for tonight. So I'm gonna sort of change over the scenes here. And there we go.